you seen that effect as it relates to gaming, the sort of acceleration of some of these programs by the states to open it up?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Look, we're in 12 states now. We started in 3 in the beginning of the year. We've got mindset on another 8. You talk about Massachusetts, you talk about Ohio, you talk about New York, some big states that have now at least put legislation in focus. And it is about tax revenues. And so to the extent they're prepared to take on sports betting or ultimately and hopefully iGaming, there's real revenue. It is substantive for the industry and substantive for the states. And so it's motivated. There's a movement afoot now in Texas for sports betting, which would be a massive market play for the industry. We're all very focused on that. And each place is approaching it a little bit differently, but the underlying need is for revenue. And so, we're listening, we're engaged, we're trying to motivate, we're productive and positive, but we see if we're not in 20 states by the end of this year, we'll be very surprised by that.
That was MGM Resorts CEO Bill Hornbuckle speaking with Bloomberg's Ed Hammond. We want to recap right now by going back to Bumble, which has opened with a surprising IPO, up as so many of these tech ones have been. We're going to check in once again with Abigail Doolittle. Where are we with Bumble, Abigail?
David, very exciting here. We, of course, have Bumble absolutely soaring on its trading debut, up about 76% right now. It opened at $76 per share relative to the IPO price of $43. So here's yet another hot IPO. Big demand. That price was actually above or at the high end of the range, which had been moved up. So it really points to the demand for these hot investments. And David, you were asking the question around valuation. It is actually trading at a slight discount right now on one metric relative to Match Group. So who knows? Maybe Bumble will keep soaring. It certainly is right now, David.
Okay, thank you so much for that great coverage of Bumble and the IPO. So Abigail Doolittle. Coming up, Balance of Power is going to continue on Bloomberg Radio. In our second hour, we're going to have more with former SEC Chairman Harvey Pitt. What we can expect out of a Biden administration and a Biden SEC. This is Balance of Power on Bloomberg Television and on radio.
is Bloomberg Technology. Coming up, the House GameStop hearing now has a date, February 18th, where executives from Robinhood, Melvin Capital, Citadel Securities are expected to testify. We'll talk about meme stocks and short sellers with someone who's got an opinion on both. Silicon Valley insider Spencer Rascoff, whose own company Zillow was shorted by Citron Research back in the day. Plus, making politics less polarizing. Facebook is testing reduced political content in news feeds. We'll have all the details, plus what it's got in store to compete with the wildly popular app, Clubhouse. And speaking of social media, I talked to Twitter CFO Ned Siegel more on the company's banner sales, as well as its decision to permanently ban President Trump. Those stories in a moment, but first, Uber earnings out after the bell, and it is a miss on the revenue front. The company reporting rides are down, but they're seeing big growth in food delivery. I'll talk about it all with Uber CEO Dara Khosrowshahi tomorrow on The Open. That conversation will be live about 9 a.m. Eastern Time, Bloomberg TV and radio. For more on Uber's earnings and outlook, I want to get straight to Ed Ludlow now. Ed, walk us through the numbers.
Yeah, the story for Uber is that the big boom they've seen in food delivery, particularly in that quarter, but also the second half of 2020, just wasn't enough to outweigh the decline that they've seen in their mobility business. As you said, revenue fell around 16% to 3.17 billion, below analysts' expectations. But really, the story is around rideshare, right? Mobility gross bookings down by half. The good news is that the delivery business, food delivery business, revenue more than doubled during the broader pandemic period. Gross bookings coming in the quarter above 10 billion, well above expectations. And now the focus turns to Uber's long term, right? You know, the executives talking on the call saying that in terms of profit, or EBITDA as a measure of profit, they're confident of hitting that at some point in 2021, and that they're on this trajectory where they're within their profit goals. The real action that they took in the quarter was shedding the money-losing assets, things that you and I love, Emily, flying taxis, autonomous vehicle plans, things like that. They also sold off some of their stake in Didi, the Asian ride-hailing service as well. So right now it's all about belt tightening for Uber. We had some other earnings elsewhere in the marketplace today. Twitter out with earnings after the market on Tuesday, but my goodness, look at Twitter, up 13%. Revenue was a big beat. It rose 28% to 1.29 billion. But Twitter is forecasting that growth is going to slow significantly in its user base in the coming quarters. The market kind of looking past that, up 13%, stock at its highest level in 7 years, no problem. General Motors, though, lower. A lot of talk about electric vehicles, General Motors, but they outlined some concern when it comes to their profit profile for 2021 because they're suffering from the same thing that all other automakers are, which is a shortage in semiconductors. And as you know, Emily, a lot of cars today are connected. They have a lot of silicon in them. And analysts concerned that that's going to weigh on the company's profit as it's not able to produce those higher profit profile, bigger trucks and SUVs. Also some concern around the battery supply chain as well. And Lyft, up by about 4.8% today. Similar story, you know, their ride business is down, but they did belt tightening in the quarter, as you know. And really, the optimism comes from their profit outlook for the rest of the year.
All right, Ed, and we're going to be hearing from Twitter CFO Ned Siegel later this hour. Talk to him about some of those numbers, especially user growth. I do want to ask you quickly about Rivian. We could be getting ready for a pretty big IPO in the world of electric cars. You've been reporting on this. What can you tell us?
Yeah, sources saying that Rivian could IPO as soon as September, or at least the end of the year. They're targeting a valuation greater than $50 billion. They've already raised $8 billion in the private markets. Their latest valuation, according to sources, was almost $28 billion. So they're well on their way, but they're yet to deliver a car to customers. That's expected in June when they